All right, radio check, radio check. My mic should be working. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We've got 700 people before the stream has even started, which is absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's the highest we've ever had before. So thank you everyone for tuning in. The race is starting in 26 minutes. We've got obviously Lewis Hamilton on pole position, which is absolutely fantastic. Alongside him will be Max Verstappen on the front row of the grid. Then we've got two McLarens in third and fourth, which is brilliant to see. And then we've got Guan Yu Zhou in fifth place. I mean, I forgot to mention this in yesterday's commentary. I was so blown away by Hamilton's lap. So Hamilton up in first, Norris and Piastri in third and fourth, and then Guan Yu Zhou pulling a lap out of nowhere and being in fifth position. Absolutely fantastic for Guan Yu Zhou. I mean, it's a brilliant job from him. And thank you everyone for tuning in. All right, let's see. The strategy for today is actually quite interesting. We've got definitely a guaranteed two-stop, which is brilliant to see. And the expected strategy will be start the race on the medium tyres and then switch onto the hard tyres around about lap number 20, 24, 25-ish, and then do a stint on hard tyres and then either do another stint on hards or do a stint on mediums again. It is a little bit touch and go, but with track temperatures up in the range of 49.7 degrees, I suspect we're going to have quite a lot of tyre wear today, and the teams will probably go for a medium hard strategy. That's what I was expected, but of course there is a chance of a safety car around this circuit where there's a 40% record of a safety car, considering all of the races that have happened at this circuit, so 40% chance of a safety car. And that could definitely mix things up, if a couple of drivers have went into a pit stop. We saw it last weekend with Ferrari pitting early and then the safety car coming out, and then they got completely screwed over by it. But we'll wait and see what happens and if there is a safety car around this circuit. I mean, it's brilliant to see Hamilton lining up for pole position. It's been, I think, 13, 14 races. Oh, no, more than 13, 14. It's been 33 races, I think, since Hamilton has got a pole position. So been a very, very long time, and it's good to see him back at the top, and we'll see a battle between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. I mean, who does not want to see that? Like, it's absolutely fantastic. Okay. What else is going on? So let's see. Well, those are the main stories. Of course, we've got Lewis Hamilton up in first. We've got the two McLarens in third and fourth. This is the thing, right? So McLaren, they were initially slower than Aston Martin at the start of the season. Of course, Aston Martin had a brilliant start of the season, multiple podiums, and so they had a lot of momentum, but that momentum seemed to just stop. They didn't bring any major upgrade packages that seemed to increase their pace, and McLaren seemed to have leapfrogged them. So what was expected was that in the high-speed circuits, the McLarens would do great, like they did in Britain and in Austria. But then now coming to the slow-speed circuits, we expected Aston Martin to be able to fight the McLarens, potentially be faster than them in this high speed. And that's what the Aston Martin team said, and the McLaren team said that they were going to be slower on the circuit. They said they weren't expecting much. And we've got the exact opposite. We've got two McLarens in third and fourth. And Oscar Piastri as well, in his rookie season, able to compete with Lando Norris and putting it alongside him on the front of the grid. That's brilliant to see. So we'll see if Piastri can maybe score a podium. Of course, Norris is the more experienced driver. Norris got a podium yesterday. So maybe... Oh, not yesterday, sorry, last weekend. And maybe we'll see Piastri score a podium. And then we've got Guan Yu Zhou. I mean, the Alfa Romeos were on fire yesterday. Fifth and seventh place for the Alphas, considering they've been getting eliminated in Q1 for the past for most of the season. It is brilliant to see that they're back up there. I think what they did, that they played around with a setup to make sure they could really switch on those tyres over the course of quali. And that's how they made it through out of Q1. Because if you remember in Q1, we saw Zhou and Bottas up in like first and second position, first and third or something. It was, absolutely extraordinary. But I think that's mainly down to the fact that they modified their setup a little bit so they can be really quick and quali because of getting those tires into the correct window. And I think it's a very smart strategy. It's definitely worked out for them in fifth and seventh. But the issue is with that, there's always a trade-off with things. So now they have the ability to switch on their tires, which generally means that you will have a setup that will overheat your tires more. And with 48-degree track temperatures, that is well, that seems to be maybe a bit of a death sentence. Like, it's going to be so difficult for these two to manage those tires because their car is set up in a way to heat them up as much as possible. So it's going to be tricky. Are they going to suffer from a lot of tire wear? Are they going to drop back through the field because of it? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou, a fantastic job indeed. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. All right, thank you everyone for tuning in, and hello Racing Statistics. Nice to see you watching my stream. In fact, I've got your stream loaded up as well. So, well, there we are. Also, we've got 900 people watching. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you could hit the like button, that would be fantastic. Yeah. Okie dokes then. Race starts in 20 minutes time, and we might as well start from the bottom of the field. So we've got Logan Sargent in 20th position. Unfortunately, didn't have that good of a qualifying, and yeah, was quite far off Alex Albon, in fact. So we'll see what Logan Sargent can do. But this is one of the circuits where driver's skill very much comes into play, as we saw with Lewis Hamilton. If it was a very much car-oriented circuit, it would have been extremely difficult for Hamilton to put it up on pole position. But with the driver's skill coming in, Logan Sargent unfortunately dropping a little bit back from Alex Albon. But to be fair, it is his rookie season. You can't expect that much from him. But nevertheless, Logan Sargent starting in 20th position. We've got Kevin Magnussen in 19th position. And once again, his teammate Nico Hülkenberg up in 10th. I mean, it's fantastic how Hülkenberg gets into the top 10 every single weekend. Like, we're not even surprised anymore that Hülkenberg's into the top 10. It's like, first couple of races, we were like, oh my God, Hülkenberg in that Haas is in Q3. And now we're just like, oh, it's typical Saturday, you know, Nico Hülkenberg out qualifying Magnussen by about 10 places. Yeah, I don't know how Hülkenberg can out-qualify Magnussen that much in qualifying, but he ends up doing it every single time. Towards in the races, they both tend to converge towards each other, but yeah, as of qualifying, Kevin Magnussen is significantly behind Nico Hülkenberg. I think the record is like 8-4 or something for Hülkenberg out qualifying Magnussen. So it's yeah, pretty significant. Then we have George Russell in 18th. That's a big shocker. I mean, Hamilton's up on pole. George Russell in 18th, very big surprise. Usually these two are so evenly matched, and I suspect if Russell did make it through into Q2 and then Q3, he probably would have ended up in 5th, 6th position maybe. But yeah, a very big shocker for him, and he didn't even get a lap time deleted or anything. So yeah, very big surprise for George Russell to get eliminated out of Q1. We'll see if he can make a recovery. Of course, we've seen in the past races that Sergio Perez has a lot of difficulty making that recovery drive, and Sergio Perez has got a Red Bull. So Lewis Hamilton up on pole position now. Now George Russell is the new Sergio Perez, and he's going to try and make a recovery drive. And now moving on to Sergio Perez. In fact, Perez made it through into Q3 after 6 races of not getting into Q3, but then put it in 9th position. So it's a little bit underwhelming. Like, congratulations for making it into Q3, but 9th, like, seriously, mate. So Sergio Perez still got work to do, and yeah, needs to make it up, potentially up into the podium. And it should be a lot easier starting in 9th rather than 19th. We'll see what you can do. Yeah. All right, we've got nearly 1,000 people watching. If you guys could hit the like button, that would be absolutely fantastic. Really would help out the stream just before the race gets going. Yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in. Okie dokes. Also, do let me know in the chat, who do you think is going to win the race? Is it going to be Lewis that wins the race, or is it going to be Max Verstappen? According to the race pace simulations, it says that Lewis is 0.2 slower in terms of, well, the Mercedes is 0.2 slower than the Red Bull in terms of race pace. So will Lewis be able to make up that 0.2 gap? The Red Bull surprisingly seems quite slow this weekend, even though they brought upgrades, which is very surprising. Yeah, we'll just have to see how that works out for them. Maybe their upgrades are more race oriented. But it's interesting that Red Bull brought upgrades and then ended up being slower than usual. Very interesting indeed. What happened to Perez? That guy dropped hard. Yeah, Perez, I mean, well, he got a bit of a recovery, but still 9th position, not great for him. Also, I would just like to mention the Aston Martin hype train has fully been derailed. Like, I think they scored 4-5 podiums in the first couple of races, and then well, yeah, and now they've just been completely derailed, and here they are in eighth and in 14th. So yeah, that just shows you the development that you have in Formula One. It is so rapid and consistent. Um, if you have one or two missed upgrade packages that don't work out to be as effective as you would have as you would have liked, then there goes your podiums. So Aston Martin were the team to take away that odd podium here and there at the start of the season. Now it looks to be McLaren. We'll wait and see if Ferrari, they're going to bring an upgrade package soon. Is that going to help them out? And maybe Alfa Romeo, they have a good shot of points as well today, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, so quite a lot of you are suggesting that Lewis is going to win. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. I suspect quite a lot of Lewis fans are on here because, well, this is the highest amount of people we've had before a stream has started. So yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in, and I will endeavor to give you the best coverage possible. Okie dokes. So just a quick rerun of what the strategy is going to be for today. The strategy is expected to start the race on the medium tyres, then go on to a set of hard tyres for your middle stint, and then depending on what your tyre wear is like, go on to the mediums or the hards at the end. The soft tyre is really not an ideal race tyre, and if you really want to incorporate the softs into your race strategy, then you're going to have to do medium, hard, soft with one extra pit stop, which is a little bit of an odd strategy, and I wouldn't expect that to particularly work unless there's a safety car, of course, which will definitely mix things up. Okay. Also, the differences between the tires. So the soft tires are 3/10 faster than the mediums, and the mediums are 5/10 faster than the hards. There's a pretty big pace difference between the mediums and the hard, which should make lots of great overtaking because the difference between the cars is half a second per lap, which means drivers catching up, slowing down to each other, and well, a whole lot of overtaking. Yeah, so a quick run through of the race simulation pace that the data that was gathered from practice. We have Red Bull being the fastest car, McLaren and Mercedes both a tenth behind, Ferrari a tenth and a half behind, Aston Martin 3/10 behind, Alfa Romeo and Alpine 4.5 tenths behind Red Bull, and then the Haas, AlphaTauri and Williams all 8 tenths behind. And this is per lap, by the way. So yeah, the gap isn't too big according to the data for the McLarens and the Mercedes. We don't know if Red Bull was sandbagging, if they were struggling with the high temperatures. But if they were struggling with the high temperatures, then well, today's weather is not doing them any favors because it is 28-degree air temperature and 49-degree track temperature. Yeah. Okie dokes. So, well, the main thing that we're going to see going into turn number one is the battle between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Of course, we saw an absolutely brilliant battle between these two drivers in the 2021 season. Now we're going to see how that, what are they going to do here? Of course, Max has a massive lead in the championship. There's no need for him to go for a reckless move into turn number one. And we've seen that Max has matured as well now. He's deciding to take a little less risk than he usually would. And, we'll see what he can do. The run down to turn number one will be around about 800 or so meters. So, yeah, so the entire straight is 980 meters, but of course, all the drivers are lined up. So it's around about 800 meters from pole position to turn number one. And we're just going to see who gets the best of it, who gets the best start, who gets the best traction. There will be time to slipstream the driver ahead of you. Maybe we'll see someone go bowling like Bottas did in 2021. We don't know. But that is, yeah, that's what's going to happen into turn number one. We're going to have, it will be Lewis Hamilton starting on the left side of the grid, Max Verstappen starting on the right side. So Verstappen has the inside line from the pit box. But of course, Lewis Hamilton has the clean side of the grid because that's where the racing line is. So it's yeah, well, very interesting to see. Another thing to keep an eye on is, can the Alfa Romeos keep up with the pace? They had a brilliant qualifying, but they are in 5th and 7th. And looking at the previous parts of their season, it's not where they usually are. So can they keep up with the cars, or are they going to drop back? That's one thing to watch out for. Another thing, George Russell, of course, can he recover from his horrible qualifying? And then also Daniel Ricciardo, I haven't talked about him, but Daniel Ricciardo, after his first qualifying session back, he goes into 13th position and Yuki Tsunoda in 17th. So Daniel Ricciardo outqualified Yuki Tsunoda on the first time of asking, which is fantastic for him in terms of his recovery back into Formula One and potentially um, getting a drive at Red Bull. But we're going to see, will Ricciardo be able to keep up that consistent pace? Is he going to make a couple mistakes here or there because he's not used to driving the car? Because, of course, you've got to consider this, that Daniel Ricciardo has done 3 practice sessions and 1 qualifying session in the AlphaTauri, and he's done a lot of time in the simulator, but in the simulator is not exactly what real life is. And a little bit, if you don't know what the car is going to do and you don't expect and you don't see that it's coming, then a little bit too much throttle, and you could see Daniel Ricciardo just spinning right round. So yeah, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on Daniel Ricciardo, what his pace is like. Is he consistent with the rest of the drivers, and what he can do from there. We've got 11 minutes till the race starts. All the drivers are lined up on the grid, and their GPSs will sort themselves out shortly. We have 70 laps of racing around here, 14 corners in total. Most of them are right-handers, and yeah, a brilliant circuit and a brilliant race that is to come now. We've got a 0% chance of rain, of course, with such hot temperatures. There's no chance of rain, and yeah. All right, we've got 1,400 people watching. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Really do appreciate the support. If you are going to hit the like button, that would very much be appreciated. And hopefully, we will get going very, very shortly. All righty. I'm just going to get a quick drink of water, and then I will be back in a second. Okie dokes. So now we have got 10 minutes till lights out, and I will just give you a quick. Well, in fact, what have we got left to do now just before lights out has started? I'll give you a quick update on, well, just what's happening at the team. Also, I'd just like to mention the wind. So yesterday in the practice sessions, drivers were complaining a lot about the wind. They were locking up here and there due to the wind, and it was quite gusty. And today the wind has died down a bit. It is going in the southern direction, so it's a little bit of a crosswind for going down the straights, but nothing too major. So the gusty conditions that the drivers were seeing in yesterday's practice session will not be present today, which is good. All right. Yeah, the drivers are headed out for the national anthem, and we'll be getting going very, very shortly. Nothing much else has occurred on the circuit. No surprise penalties or grid penalties or anything like that. Yeah. Oh, my mic. Is that my mic? No, that's my headphones. Okay. So yeah, 8 minutes left now, and we've got what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the Alpines, right? So the Alpines, they're in 12th and 15th position, and they haven't had the best of season so far. No significant progress, and well, they'll be looking to make up a couple of positions here, but they've mainly just been struggling with getting into top 10 and staying there consistently. Of course, they've had the odd point scoring occasion where they're like probably in like 7th or 8th place, but most of the time they just scrape it through, and it isn't that ideal for the Alpine team. And yeah, it's Alpine are now on a similar level to Aston Martin when it comes to pace. In fact, we saw that in the race practice data. So yeah, it's not looking good for Alpine, and we'll see what they can do this weekend. But they've had quite a string of not ideal results, and can they bounce back from that? Also, I would like to say Nico Hulkenberg, he's starting in 10th, and we see this quite consistently. He starts off the race in a very good position, of course, because he had a brilliant qualifying pretty much every weekend, but then he drops down lap after lap. So can Nico Hulkenberg stay within the top 10 Is that Haas car capable of producing a good race performance, or is it just qualifyings? That's quite interesting. Also, guys, if you do have any questions in the chat, be sure to let me know, and I will answer them because we do have a couple of minutes before qualifying starting, and I've got a couple more things to say, but I'll save that for just before the race start. And yeah. So if you've got any questions, do let me know. In fact, I'll take you through a tour of the circuit. So let's see. So we have got the start-finish straight, of course. That is 980 meters long from the end of turn number 14 to the start of turn number 1. One of the shortest straights, in fact. It does have DRS, though. And then turn number 1 is a pretty straightforward corner. Of course, it's a hairpin, so there's quite a lot of overtaking chances. The drivers go through there around about third or fourth gear, and then on the exit of turn number 1, there is another DRS zone, which is, well, it's got the same activation point as the first DRS zone. So if you have DRS on the first main start-finish straight, then you'll also have DRS on the next zone as well, which is quite helpful for overtaking maneuvers and potentially re-overtaking someone who overtook you into turn number 1. Then through turn number 2. Turn number 2 is a downhill braking zone, which makes it pretty tricky to make sure you don't lock up effectively. And going through turn number 2, you need to get a decent line through there because otherwise you're going to compromise your exit onto turn number 3, which is not ideal because you've got another straight going down there. And yeah. All right, and then going down the straight, of course, you've got turn number 4, a very high-speed flick to the left, and the drivers are very, very careful through that. If you do exceed track limits, you will get your lap time deleted, and I would like to say that we had quite a lot of track limits deletions yesterday. Turn number 4, turn number 5, turn number 12, and I think it was turn number 14 as well. So we had quite a lot of track limit lap time deletions. So the drivers will have to be careful on this because if they carry on getting track limit extensions, then they will get a penalty like they did in Austria. So yeah, the drivers have to be, that's just another thing for them to be careful about. Can we watch this with a race with some VPN like in Silverstone? Well, if you guys do have a VPN, I think if you VPN to Austria and then go to Service TV or something, SEVUS, yeah. SEVRUS. I think you'll find it. And then you get Austrian commentary. Well, not Austrian. You'll get German commentary, and then you can watch the feed and then listen to me. So that's if you have a VPN, of course. But I will be sorting out a VPN sponsorship, hopefully, which will be great. Who do you think is going to win? I'm just going to go with the boring thing. I'm going to say Verstappen's going to win the race. Hamilton had a great lap in quali, but that is, of course, just one lap. And we don't know if he'll be able to keep that consistency throughout the entire race. And what all of the past races have suggested that the Mercedes isn't that quick. So I'm going to go with the safe option of saying Verstappen's going to win, but I would like to be surprised. I would very much like to be pleasantly surprised. It gets a little bit boring commentating races where Verstappen is like 10 seconds in the lead. Yeah. All right. Also, guys, race starting in 4 minutes time. If you could hit the like button and we could hit maybe 500 likes before the stream starts, before the race starts, sorry, that would be fantastic. And yeah, all right, let's go then. The engineers are now just doing the final checks, putting the car onto, getting it off the stilts that the cars are on, putting on the correct tires, taking off the tire blankets, and we will be going racing shortly. Okay. What was I going to say? Yeah, so 3 minutes now, so I'll take you through the starting grid. The drivers, of course, will do a formation lap, and then we will go racing as per usual. Yeah, 70 laps of racing around this circuit. I think the circuit is 4.2 kilometers. 4.2 is wrong. I'm not sure of the exact number. I think it's 3.2 kilometers. Yeah, 3.2 kilometers sounds right. I will also let you know what tyres that all the drivers are on. Once they do cross the start-finish line and onto the first sector line, it will tell us what tyres the drivers are on. And that'll be pretty key information because, that's going to decide the strategy. If some driver starts on the hard tyres, maybe they're waiting out for a safety car. And if a safety car does come, that'll be brilliant for them. And, we'll just have to wait and see how that works. Hamilton Yeah, we could see Hamilton and Max go off into turn number one. Both just, I mean, if that happens, if both Hamilton and Verstappen crash out turn number one, that will be such a brilliant race to commentate. I mean, I won't even be mad. Like Verstappen, you've already won the championship anyway, mate. Like no big deal. And then we have Norris, Piastri, Zhou, Leclerc, and Bottas competing for the win. I mean, that is yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, it would be like 2021 when Ocon won the race because Valtteri Bottas decided to go bowling into turn number one. But you know, who knows? Maybe Bottas is starting in seventh position today. He's in a prime position to go bowling. Just put on the magic brake button, and you know, there you are, back into locking up your brakes into the back of everyone. All right. So the tyres have loaded. We have got Sainz, Ricciardo, Gasly, and Tsunoda starting the race on the soft tyres, which is interesting considering track temperature is 50 degrees. Then we have Alex Albon. Oh no, and then we have Sergio Perez and George Russell starting the race on the hards, and everyone else is on the medium tyres. So, as expected, we've got most drivers on the medium tyres, and we have got a couple of drivers on the softs, which is quite surprising. But I suspect what they can do is do a soft, then a medium, and then a hard stint, and that might work out to be overall quicker, depending on how much tyre management you have to do. We will just have, maybe they could do soft, hard. That could also work. Of course, I'm not a F1 strategist, so I don't know exactly, but that's what I'm trying to deduce from the information. We've got 1 minute till lights out now, and the drivers will go on a formation lap, and then we will get going. Yeah, all right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Very much do appreciate all your support, and hopefully you enjoy the coverage. Okie dokes then. So we've got the drivers now lined up on the grid. All the engineers have come off to the side and will be going racing shortly then. Imagine if Daniel Ricciardo gets his Grand Prix, guarantees Red Bull seat. Well, yeah, I mean, Daniel Ricciardo starting in 13th position. If there are a couple incidents up ahead, he definitely has a chance to score quite well in today's race. Also, Carlos Sainz starting the race on the soft tyres, a little bit of a surprise. I mean, Ferrari aren't known for their best strategies, but I don't see why Sainz needs to start the race on the soft tyres. I mean, he hasn't got that much to lose. He's already starting in 11th, so we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah. All right, the drivers have now fired up the engines and they will be getting going. Also, I would just like to point out the tyres that we have today are the softest of the Pirelli range. So all the drivers are on the C5, C4, and C3. Yeah, all right, let's just get rid of this formation lap is underway thing. Right, there we go. And the drivers will get going shortly. Okie dokes. I'm just going to have a quick drink and then I will get back to the coverage. Okie dokes. So, we haven't had the drivers leave for the pit lane yet. Oh, in fact, it's 15 seconds now, so they'll be going in 15 seconds, 10 seconds to go. It's just coming through on the radio messages, and there they are moving on the circuit now, weaving around, warming up those tyres, getting the brake temperature as well. So, it is, yeah. All right. Yeah, everyone just driving around. George Russell starting the race in 18th position, looking to make a recovery. We've got Sargent and Magnussen at the back of the grid. So, yeah, right. We'll go through all of the grid positions. And by the way, guys, if your driver, if a driver is starting on an odd number on the grid, then they have the clean part of the grid. So, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, Guan Yu Zhou, they're on the clean side of the grid. Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, they are on the dirty side of the grid. So they have a little bit of a disadvantage off the start of this race. And we'll see how that plays out for them. But it shouldn't be too big of a difference. The run down to turn number one is only 800 meters or so, not that big of a run into turn number one. And yeah. All right, so from 19th and 20th at the back of the grid, we've got Kevin Manx and Logan Sargent, both of them behind their teammates looking to get back and compete with them. We've got Sonoda in 17th, George Russell in 18th after a pretty shocking qualifying for both of them. Sonoda getting out qualified by Ricciardo in his first race back, George Russell in 18th while his teammates on pole. Then we've got Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon in 15th and 16th position. Albon actually had a brilliant qualifying, unfortunately couldn't make it through, and Gasly made it through but didn't get much out of Q2. Then Ricciardo, first race back, absolutely fantastic job from him, and then Lance Stroll in 14th alongside, and we got Sainz and Ocon, Sainz on the soft tyres, Ocon on the mediums on the 6th row of the grid. Then we've got Perez and Hulkenberg on the 5th row of the grid. Perez starting the race on the hard tyres. We'll see if he goes forwards or backwards from that, because the hard tyres really aren't that good off the line. And then we have Bottas and Alonso in 7th and 8th. Bottas did a brilliant job yesterday in qualifying, and the same can be said for his teammate Guan Yu Zhou in 5th. And alongside Guan Yu Zhou, we have Charles Leclerc in 6th position. Then, of course, the two McLarens at the front row, on the 2nd row of the grid. And then our front row, which everyone loves to see, we've got Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. So that is our grid for today's Grand Prix. All of the drivers have now either finished or finishing the formation lap, and we will be going racing shortly. We've got 4,000 people watching the stream. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you could hit the like button and subscribe, that would be fantastic. I stream all of the qualifyings, all of the races, and all of the sprint races as well. So hope you enjoy the coverage, and let's go racing. All right, we've got Logan Sargent now just pulling up to the back of the grid. All the drivers done their burnouts. Their rear tires are up to temperature, their brakes are up to temperature, and they're all lined up on the grid and ready to go racing. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights and lights out, and away we go. Lewis Hamilton gets a good start. Max Verstappen side by side going into turn number 1. Here they are breaking into one. Hamilton on the outside, Verstappen on the inside. Hamilton gets a decent line out of there, and we've got Verstappen in the lead this race. Hamilton down 2 places. Piastri into second. A brilliant start. Ocon, there's been a collision at the back. Ocon has lost out massively, but Verstappen leads the race from Piastri. Then Norris. Hamilton losing 2 positions now, and Leclerc and Sainz in 5th and 6th. Sainz had a absolutely fantastic start. Started the race in 11th, up into 6th. I mean, those soft tyres really did work out well for the Ferrari, but Verstappen leads the race. The two McLarens in 2nd and 3rd, and Lewis Hamilton is in 4th position. Losing 3 places off the race start, not ideal for him. We've got Guan Yu Zhou with damage, Ricciardo with damage by the looks of it as well. Ocon and Gasly, both Alpines, have an absolutely horrible start and right at the back of the pack. So can we get an F in the chat for the Alpines? And yeah, all right. So we've got Verstappen leading this race just going through the first sector now. And my mic. Okay. Hopefully my mic continues working. Right. Yeah, Guan Yu Zhou has also got front wing damage, so we're going to have to be... he's going to have to come into the pits. It's going to be a long race for a couple of these drivers after getting damage going into turn number 1. But Verstappen leads the race. Piastri ahead of Norris, and in fact keeping up with Max Verstappen, which is great to see. And the gaps are all within 1 second. Also, by the way, guys, this is new. The setup is new. So if the interval column is green, that means the driver is within DRS range, which is it's quite useful to see if the driver's within DRS range or not. So that's just a little bit of information for you guys watching. George Russell had a fantastic start. Both George Russell and Kevin Magnussen up 5 places off the race start. Same for Yuki Tsunoda. He gains 6, and Carlos Sainz gains 5, and Lance Stroll gains 4. I mean, it is a fantastic start for everyone. Also, this is so unfortunate. The Alfa Romeo is in 12th and 16th position after the first lap. I mean, they had a brilliant qualifying, but here they are down in 12th and 16th. That is absolutely horrible for them. All right, Max Verstappen has broken DRS from Oscar Piastri, or is getting very close to breaking DRS. We've got Lando Norris unable to keep up with his teammate, and Hamilton now onto the back of Norris, and we're going to see what happens with those 2 British drivers. We've got the 2 Ferraris in 5th and 6th. Hopefully they're going to work together and try and catch up. Sainz is on the back of Ferrari on Leclerc though, and Sainz is on the softs. Leclerc's on the mediums. Are Ferrari going to do a little bit of a switch there or not? We will have to wait and see. But Max Verstappen crossed the line at 1 minute 25.1, a good lap for him, and DRS will be getting enabled shortly. We're on lap number 3 of 70, and drivers will have DRS in the upcoming lap. All right. Let's see. We've got Pierre Gasly in the pits, and I think Pierre Gasly has retired. Yeah, Pierre Gasly, by the looks of it, has retired from this race, and Esteban Ocon comes into the pits. We'll see if he's retiring or if he is out. Yeah, okay, so they've just told, this is the radio message from Esteban Ocon's radio. So, Esteban, I want you to stop on your marks, keep the engine running. We're going to check the car over, but I think it's going to be terminal. So, yeah, this it looks like both Alpines are out of this Grand Prix, which is absolutely tragic. We've got Verstappen still leading the race, though, 1.2 seconds out in the lead. And yeah, DRS has been broken quite consistently there. So Verstappen now firmly ahead of Oscar Piastri, not under threat of being overtaken. We've still got Sainz on the back of Leclerc. Are they going to switch? Are they going to switch the two drivers around? It's a bit annoying there. Yeah. All right, there was quite a big incident into turn number 1, guys. I would just like to point out, like, Esteban Ocon went quite high up into the air at turn number 1. So, yeah. Also, DRS has been enabled. You guys can... Oh, in fact, you guys can't see that. I think I've... whoops, one sec. Let me just... let me just mess with the settings for a second. Right, there you go. You can see who's using DRS and who isn't now. So there we go. We've got 5,000 people watching. If you guys could hit the like button and maybe we could hit 1,000 likes, that would be fantastic. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And yeah, this is lap number 4 of 70 of the Hungarian Grand Prix. We've got Verstappen in the lead of this race, the 2 McLarens on the podium. Brilliant to see. Lewis Hamilton now applying pressure on Lando Norris. The same can be said for Carlos Sainz on Charles Leclerc. And we've got a bit of a DRS train going behind Fernando Alonso. The Aston Martin hype train has been derailed, but Alonso can hold the DRS train of his own. And we've got Sergio Perez is in fact stuck behind him. So we're going to see if Perez can make it past him. He will have DRS on this next lap. And he is getting ridiculously close to him considering Perez is on the hards and Alonso's on the mediums. That's a half a second gap between difference in pace between those two tyres. Yet Perez is right on the back of Fernando Alonso. Brilliant driving there from the Mexican. So here they go through now down into turn 1. So Hamilton gets DRS and he gains about 2/10 going down the straight compared to Lando Norris. So 2/10 of pace gained from the DRS in the first DRS zone. And then through the second DRS zone, once again, Hamilton, I think he'll gain about a 1/10.5. So DRS around about 3.5 of pace every single lap that you get basically for free. And, well, all of the drivers will be using that to their advantage. All right. What happened to Ricciardo? Just got caught up in the incidents on lap number 1. So that is why he's down in 18th position. Yeah, lost 5 places off the race start. And Guan Yu Zhou and Bottas losing 5 and 11 places respectively. Not ideal for them whatsoever. Not ideal. All right. So here they go then. Max Verstappen, another fastest lap of the race, a 1:24.5 from him. And he's just, well, cleanly leading this race 1.5 seconds ahead of Piastri. There's no need for him to push too much. He's got to conserve those tyres because with the track temperature up at 49 degrees, we will get quite a lot of wear and tear on those tyres. So we'll see how that works out for them. Also, I would like to point out Lewis Hamilton has now dropped back behind Lando Norris and he is not able to stay within DRS range. So Lewis Hamilton seems like he had a brilliant qualifying lap, but is now unable to keep up with the rest of the drivers. So yeah, he's dropped out of DRS range of Lando Norris, and yeah, we'll see how that goes out for him. Of course, we have to keep into account that the drivers, some of them are driving on older tyres than others, even though this is just the first stint. Norris is on 5-lap-old mediums, Hamilton's on 8-lap-old mediums. This is because Hamilton used those set of medium tyres in qualifying yesterday. So yeah, a couple of used sets here and there, and we're seeing a little bit of pace difference between the drivers because of those tyres. Yeah. All right, I will let you know if Ricardo's car is damaged, but looking at his lap times, he's setting consistent lap times, and he is matching, well, he's going marginally slower than Yuki Tsunoda, but he's still matching Kevin Magnussen, Alex Albon, so there's no major damage that, well, we can see from the lap times, but maybe there's some damage to the floor that we can't see, that isn't visible to us. I will have a look through and see if there is any damage, but... yeah, it does not look like there is much damage for Daniel Ricciardo. He's just had a bad start and then starts out, and then, yeah, has to recover from it. Also, I'd like to point out the driver's struggling from brake issues. Lewis Hamilton, his front right brake is overheating, and I think that's why he dropped back from Lando Norris. So, yeah, he needs to run in slightly less dirty air, slightly less hot air. Instead of running in Lando Norris's exhaust fumes, probably wants to run in some fresh air, cool those tires, cool those brakes down a bit. Otherwise, he's going to have a brake failure later on in this race. All right. So let's see. We have got Kevin Magnussen on the back of George Russell. Both drivers had a great start, up 5 positions, and they'll be looking to continue that recovery up the field. And Kevin Magnussen, in fact, comes over the radio and says, "Tell me the gap to George Russell. I want to try and match him as much as possible." And there's quite a good strategy. In fact, staying with a faster car lets you keep the DRS. That's 3.5 tenths for free. No need to push that much, and yeah, the driver's doing a pretty well. Kevin Magnussen doing a good job there, staying on the back of George Russell. Admittedly, Russell's on the hards, Magnussen's on the mediums, but nevertheless, solid job there from K-Mag, and hopefully he can close up on Nico Hülkenberg. Also, I would like to say Hülkenberg usually starts off the race in 9th, 10th position after a great qualifying and then drops back a couple of places, but today he's up in 9th place, so solid job there from Nico Hülkenberg, and we'll see if he can continue on in the points, really. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Also, I would like to let you know that the FIA are investigating the incident on turn number 1, lap number 1, which is where we had a big incident between Ocon and Gasly and Zhou and potentially Ricciardo as well. So, yeah, that's under investigation. No penalties given out just yet, but when there is a penalty, then I will let you know. Okie dokes, Max Verstappen, another fastest lap of the race. We're on lap number 8. Oh, we've got a lap time deletion from Daniel Ricciardo. So, yeah, extending track limits at turn number 4. Once again, we saw this quite often in qualifying as well, because it is such a high-speed corner. If you misbrake your turning in point or if you misjudge, your turning in point or your braking point, then you end up going onto the curb, and the curb just kind of pulls you away off onto the edge of the circuit, which isn't good whatsoever. And we're going to see how many penalties he get. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo, his first time back in the car, first time back in a race in about a year, in about half a year. So we can give him a little bit of slack, but yeah, he needs to stay within those track limits. Otherwise, a penalty will be heading his way. Okay, next we've got 5,000, 6,000 people watching. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Very much do appreciate it. We do have a 5-second time penalty for Guan Yu Zhou for causing a collision. So Guan Yu Zhou lost 11 places on the race start, and he is now down into 16th position with another 5-second time penalty. So that is just adding on to the pain that he's already going through. But admittedly, if he caused an incident, then I think it's fair enough to give him a penalty. Alex Albon comes into the pits now, a little bit of an early pit stop considering he's on the medium tyres. But I will let you know if there is any reason for that. Okie dokes. We've hit 1,000 likes as well, so thank you everyone for hitting the like button. Very much do appreciate it. I guess I'll just update the goal to, there we go. All right, and I'll probably just adjust this a little bit. Okay, so let's get back to the Grand Prix then. So we've got Verstappen in the lead of this race, 2.5 seconds ahead of Oscar Piastri. And Oscar Piastri setting a green lap time, in fact, so he's doing a good job there. And Verstappen just come over the radio and said, "My tyres are just about peaking." So Verstappen saying after about 11 or so laps on medium tyres, that's when they come off that's when they start going on a downhill slope. Basically, they start wearing out a lot quicker, and yeah. So that's what's happened there. Danny Rick got stuck inside the Alpine incident. So yeah, I mean the Alpines. I don't know why. Well, Alpines just had a horrible race start really, and they got tangled with each other out of anyone to get tangled with, which is just yeah, not great. We have 3 drivers coming into the pits. Of course, 2 of them are on the soft tyres, so it's expected the soft tyres wear out after 10 laps or so. So Stroll and Tsunoda coming into the pits. Bottas as well, though, after 12 laps comes into the pits. Alex Albon, 2 purple sectors, goes faster than Max Verstappen in the second and the third sector on his fresh set of medium tyres. So a solid job there from Alex Albon. And yeah, we're just going to see how he can continue making... Well, is he going to continue doing those sector times? I suspect that's probably to warm up his tyres. He doesn't want to push too hard on them, but he needs to get some temperature in quickly, and that's why he set those quick sector times. Also, I would like to point out Piastri and Norris are very close to matching Alex Albon and they are currently lapping slightly quicker than Max Verstappen, at least in the middle sector. In the first sector, where there is quite a bit of straight line speed involved, the McLarens are a little bit slower than the Red Bulls. All right. Alex Albon comes over the radio, says, "What's our plan? You guys aren't telling me anything. Is it plan C, plan B, plan what?" So that's what's happened there. All right. Zhou nudged Daniel Ricciardo, who then crashed into the Alpines F1 Gamer. All right, so I guess that's what's happened. Thank you for the information. Yeah. I guess that's the best way of describing it, yeah. All right. We've got Max Verstappen, another fastest lap of the race. So yeah, just welcome back to keeping up with Max Verstappen, a 124.4. Yeah, by popular demand, I'm bringing back this segment of just keeping up with Max Verstappen. So we won't talk about it for most of the race, and then occasionally when he sets the fastest lap, we'll start talking about him again. Yeah. All right, Carlos Sainz doing a solid job on those soft tyres. The longest soft tyre runner, in fact. Yeah, the longest soft tyre runner out of anyone. And he is doing a good job there on those soft tyres. And it hasn't come into the pits yet. And the pit window is open for medium tyres. I mean, 11 laps is a little bit early for medium tyres. Pirelli said you could do around about 20 on them. So... yeah, we will keep an eye on that though. All right. Also, the gap between the 2 Ferraris is now 3 seconds, so there's no sort of chance of switching them over. And yeah. Okie dokes. So we have got Kevin Magnussen is now up a little bit further closer to his teammate. The gap between himself and his teammate, only 6 seconds. So Magnussen had a great recovery, and he is just following George Russell through. George Russell made some progress through the field. He is now up into 10th, into the point, so 8 places up from the race start, which is fantastic. Admittedly, a couple of drivers have pitted ahead of him, but nevertheless, George Russell making some solid progress, and K-Mag following him through, which is great to see. Also, just... once again, haven't pointed this out enough, but 2 McLarens on the podium, absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is the kind of pace that we saw from the Aston Martins at the start of the season, and here we've got Aston Martins in 8th and 14th, exactly where they qualified, and we've got the 2 McLarens in 2nd and 3rd, which is absolutely brilliant. I mean, we could see a double McLaren podium. I don't want to jinx it, but there is a chance. Of course, there is quite a lot of race left to go. We're on lap number 12 of 70, so still a long time left. 59 laps left of racing, and but we're yet to see what will happen. Also, I would like to point out the chance of getting a safety car around this circuit, 40%, looking at the data historically. So there's still a fairly decent chance of a safety car around the circuit. And when the circuit is so narrow, there is, and someone goes for an overtake, there is definitely a chance of someone getting punted off, and we get a full safety car out onto the circuit. All right, Valtteri Bottas with a fastest lap of the race. I mean, this just goes to show you guys how much tyre conservation is going on. Valtteri Bottas, on a set of hard tyres that are 7 laps old, sets the fastest lap of the race, going quicker than Max Verstappen, who's on the mediums. So... Yeah, Valtteri Bottas doing a solid job there. Also, I would like to point out a couple more track limits deletions there. We've got a lap time deleted from Alex Albon at turn number 4, Lewis Hamilton at turn number 4, Nico Hulkenberg also at turn number 4. We've had 4 track limits time deletions, and they've all been at turn number 4. As I said before, it is a very high speed corner, a little bit of a misjudging of your turning point, and you have exceeded track limits, so it is not a good job. Also, Grego, I would just like to say how the tires work. This is the tires on the left hand side are the tires that the drivers are currently on, and then the tires on the right hand side are the tires that the drivers were previously on. So, let's say Bottas was on the mediums previously, and now he's onto the hards. It's a little bit confusing. I was a bit confused when I saw it the first time around, but yeah, I guess it's just something to point out. Okay, it's Guan Yu Zhou now with the fastest lap of the race. So the Alfa Romeos definitely have some sort of pace, but yeah, they definitely they had a bit of a tangle at the start of the race. Guan Yu Zhou had a bit of an incident, caught up his teammate, the two Alpines, Daniel Ricciardo, and then got a 5-second time penalty for it. So there we are. Okay, it's Carlos Sainz onto the back of oh no, sorry, Sergio Perez onto the back of Carlos Sainz now. 8 tenths is the gap. Perez finally got ahead of Fernando Alonso. It was a pretty like overdue overtake there, but Perez finally got it done. Admittedly, Perez is on the hards, Alonso's on the medium, so Perez does have the tyre disadvantage. Perez makes it through though into 7th position, and now he's onto the back of Carlos Sainz, and we'll see if he can make any progress there. We've got Logan Sargent just coming out of the pit lane in 18th position, just behind Guan Yu Zhou. And yeah. Okie dokes. Does Piastri have a chance on gaining on Verstappen? By the looks of it, no, he does not. Piastri was partially going quicker than Verstappen on some parts of the circuit, going through a couple of sectors. He was quicker than Verstappen, but overall, Verstappen has extended that gap out from from 1 second all the way out to 6 now, and we've had 15 laps of racing or so. So if it continues at this rate, Verstappen will just continue to pull out this gap that he has currently, and I wouldn't be surprised if that continues to happen. All right, so let's follow on Sergio Perez versus Carlos Sainz. Here they are coming down the start-finish straight. 1/2 tenth is the gap. Sergio Perez got DRS open, and he is gaining in the slipstream. Looks to the inside. Carlos Sainz just staying on the racing line. Sergio Perez, he knows Sergio Perez is too far back to make a move, but Sainz gets a very good exit out of turn number 1, and Perez cannot make an overtake going through into turn 2, and he will live to fight another day. But Carlos Sainz is on the soft tyres. He's done 14 laps. Pirelli say you can do probably a maximum of 14 laps. So he's going to have to come into the pits very soon. His tyres are struggling. And I guess the best he can do is maybe hold up Perez as much as he can and then come into the pits. But it would be detrimental to his race, of course, holding up Sergio Perez. So we'll see what the Ferrari team tell him to do. I will let you know if anything comes through on the radio. And yeah. Also, I'm going to have a quick drink of water. Also, you guys can remember to stay hydrated because it's really important, and I will be back in a second. Okie dokes. So we have got now a couple of the only driver that's in fact within DRS range right now is Sergio Perez. He is once again attacking Carlos Sainz, but Carlos Sainz peels into the pit lane after 14 laps on those soft tires. He's had enough, and he's coming into the pits now. And he will, I think, maybe switch on to the hards, do 2 stints on the hards, and then go to the end of the race. Obviously, I'm not a Ferrari strategist, but by the looks of it, every single driver that has come into the pits has come out on hard tires, so it would make sense to come out on the hards. Wouldn't put it past Ferrari, though, to come out on medium tyres. I definitely would not put it past Ferrari to do that. All right. Yeah, the next race on the calendar is Spa. I am streaming that, of course, as usual. And it's a sprint race, in fact, so there's qualifying on Friday, sprint race on Saturday, and then the actual race on Sunday. Yeah. Okie dokes. Right, gap at the front of the race is 7.4 seconds. So Verstappen just extending that gap out. It was 6 seconds, like 2 laps ago, and now it's down to now it's up to 7.5 seconds. So yeah, Max Verstappen got some serious pace. Okay, thanks. Guan Yu Zhou, another fastest lap of the race. I mean, I don't know how he does it, but yeah, the Alfa Romeo has got pace for the fastest lap of the race, but it just can't stay in the top 10. I mean, he'll be looking to catch up to Tsunoda, and he's doing just that. In fact, gaining a second on him on the previous lap, but it's going to be a long, tough drive if he wants to get all the way up onto into the points. We've got Lewis Hamilton, the first of the front runners, coming into the pits after 19 laps on those medium tires. He's decided to come into the pit lane, so I suspect once again just coming out on hard tires, and it will be everyone out on the hards. And yeah, here comes Lewis Hamilton out of the pit lane onto the hard tyres, just ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, and he's just avoided the traffic very, very narrowly. A nicely done pit stop from the Mercedes crew to get Hamilton out ahead of Danny Rick. Nico Hulkenberg pulls into the pit lane as well. He comes out ahead of Guan Yu Zhou, and he is on the hard tyres as well. So yeah, everyone out on the hards by the looks of it after your pit stop. So we'll see how that goes for them. Disregarding the McLaren upgrades, do you think that Red Bull got faster? I think Red Bull got slower though. I'm not particularly sure because Red Bull did bring a big upgrade package today. It was meant to be, it's a quote unquote cooling package, but in reality they upgraded their side pod quite a bit, and yeah, I don't know how they've kind of gone backwards, but their car seems to just not be performing as well. I do have one theory. It's because it was a cooling package. They've upgraded the cooling, and I think what they did, they made it more efficient for the typical races. So like most races like Spa, it's like 20 degrees, 15 degrees, and they've optimized the cooling package for that sort of temperatures. But here you are in Budapest and air temperatures 30 degrees. They hadn't optimized it for this, so they've had to extend out those ducts, make them as big as possible, make the brake ducts as big as possible, and I think they made the car a little bit more draggy, trying to compensate for that, the lack of cooling, and maybe that's what's caused it, but to be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Also, I would like to point out, Lando Norris comes out of the pitch just ahead of George Russell. It was very, very tight there, but he's just ahead of him now, and a nice job there from Lando Norris to make it through into fifth place. Oscar Piastri will be pitting very, very soon as well. I suspect McLaren aren't favouring either driver, and Piastri will come in this lap. Otherwise, Norris will get an undercut and kind of get screwed over a little bit. Okie dokes. Have FIA announced the spending of the teams? No, they have not. I have been keeping up to date with a little bit, and apparently Aston Martin are going to get investigated, and I think maybe Red Bull. It's either Red Bull or Mercedes. One of the two are going to get investigated as well. So a bit. Well, we'll see what happens. Really, there's no way that I'm going to know if Red Bull spent too much on catering again or what. Yeah, Oscar Piastri comes into the pits as expected, should come out ahead of Lando Norris, barring any sort of pit stop issue. And we've still got Verstappen in the lead of this race by probably now 21 seconds, and Perez up into second place. So a nice job there from Sergio Perez. Recovering, of course, he's still, well, a full pit stop behind his teammate. But thing is, maybe Perez could do a full one-stop race. He could just do so many laps on the hard tires and then pit right at the end. That might be the way to go forward. Or maybe wait for a safety car. Just a quick update on what happened to Lewis Hamilton. He had a bad start, lost 3 places off the race start. Lost position to Verstappen and both McLarens, and then has now come into the pit lane while a couple of the other drivers haven't yet. So that's why he is behind. That's why he's down in 7th place. We got 7,000 people watching. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Very much do appreciate all your support. If you guys could hit the like button, that would be fantastic. And yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the coverage. If you have any feedback, be sure to let me know in the chat. And I'll try and improve and make this coverage as good as it can be. Okie dokes. Also, Carlos Sainz has got a lap time deletion once again at turn number 4. We're just seeing, a fair amount of lap times getting deleted. Oh no, I think I said that before. I think I mentioned it before, in fact. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, Carlos Sainz has got 1 track limits extension, and that is at turn number 4. All right. Lando Norris has undercut Oscar Piastri. I kind of wasn't paying attention. I was just expecting Oscar Piastri to come out ahead. Okay, I'm going to have a look at the radio because I suspect Piastri is going to be quite annoyed about this. He had a very good start to the race and he was ahead of Norris, so I think he deserved to stay ahead. So let's have a look. No team radio from Oscar Piastri just yet. All right. Yeah, Oscar Piastri comes over the radio, asks where is Hamilton. So Piastri is a little bit concerned about Hamilton, but nothing about. Um, oh, he says, okay, Piastri comes over and said, Hamilton seems very slow on the hard. Copy, what do you want me to do here? So I think he's asking, can you guys switch me around now? Because it was a bit unfair to switch us around in the pit stop. Oh my God, look at this. So over the radio, they said, for the moment, look after the tyre, the priority is the target lap time and follow plan A, but we're not going to switch you around. So Piastri has just been screwed over by McLaren. And then they've just come over the radio again and said, consider the brake balance to protect the tyres. But nothing about switching positions. So I will keep you updated on the situation, but this is Oscar Piastri, I suspect, will be quite angry about what's just happened there. And well, the gap between Piastri and Norris, 1.8 seconds. We could see just a full-on fledged battle between Piastri and Norris. He's just going to be like, well, if you guys aren't going to give me the position back, I'll just take it back myself. We'll wait and see what happens. So Fernando Alonso pulls into the pit lane after 23 laps on his medium tyres, and he'll come out on the hards as expected. Yeah, all right. Let's keep watching this gap between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. So Piastri marginally slower in all of the sectors on the previous lap, but Lando Norris did set a fastest lap of the race, so we've got to take that into account. And yeah, okie dokes. Max Verstappen, by the way, 22 seconds up in the lead of this race. Yeah, just, casually a 22-second lead, as you do, just not the most dominant, but yeah, Max Verstappen having a lovely Grand Prix in the lead of this race. All right. Yeah, let's have a look. Fernando Alonso right on the back of Valtteri Bottas. Bottas actually making a pretty decent recovery here. Bottas had a bad start to this race. Started the race in 7th, lost 5 places, and now he's back up into 10th place. He's under pressure from Fernando Alonso, and we'll see what he can do. Now, just going through the middle sector, there's no chance to make an overtake through there, but Alonso will push as much as he possibly can. Yeah. All right, looking at the lap times, we have once again Lando Norris goes a full second faster than Oscar Piastri on this lap now. So he is, very much attacking now, trying to extend that gap out as much as he can because he does not want to get switched around by his teammate. Yeah, interesting. Well, we'll see what happens there. I mean, I don't think there is a 1-2 thing at McLaren, and Lando Norris hasn't been performing like he's not miles better than Piastri. Like, I would say if you compare Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, like, yeah, Leclerc is slightly better driver, but it's nothing like it's not that big of a difference to warrant them swapping around positions. So I think they should swap them around, but maybe they'll do that at the end of the race. We have no way of knowing, to be honest. Also, Oscar Piastri has got a track limit at turn number 4. So yeah, just another track limits violation at turn number 4. We'll see how that works out for a couple more drivers. But everyone has only got 1 track limits violation so far. Nobody's got 2. Yeah. All right. Max has just come over the radio and said, tires are slowly falling out of the window for me. So, you can take that. You can take the information from there. Verstappen's run 25 laps on the mediums, and they are slowly falling out of the window. Okie dokes. Lando Norris once again going. Oh, Lando Norris and Piastri now matching each other's lap times. The gap isn't getting bigger. It isn't getting smaller, and they're just trying to. Yeah, just trying to keep up with each other. Also, we've just hit our likes target, which is thank you very much. Thank you everyone for hitting the like button. It really does help out the stream. In fact, we've got 8,000 people watching, which is absolutely fantastic. Very much do appreciate all the support, guys. And if you are enjoying them, be sure to subscribe, and I will be commentating for Spa and all of the races to come. Yeah. Okie dokes. Let's just change this to 2,000. All right. Oh, also, if you guys do have any like specific feedback that you can't type out in the chat about my commentary, then there is a feedback form in the description. So yeah, go ahead and fill that out, and I will make sure to read it and hopefully improve the coverage for next weekend. Okie dokes. Max Verstappen pulls into the pit lane after doing 26 laps on his medium tyres. We are lap number 24 of 70 of this race. We've got 47 laps left to go. Verstappen comes out on the hards as expected. And look at this. Every single driver on the grid is now on the hard tyres. We've obviously got Piastri, oh no, sorry, not Piastri, Perez and Russell, who started the race out on the hard tyres. They haven't done a pit stop yet, and they will be pitting towards the end of, well, probably the halfway point of this race is when they're going to start thinking about pitting. Yeah. All right, let's have a look then. So, Carlos Sainz sets a personal best time, and he's catching up to the back of Lewis Hamilton. 2.5 seconds is the gap, and he is very much. And Sainz is on those, on hard tires, and so is Hamilton. Both of them have pitted like 1 lap in between each other, so they haven't got that big of a pace difference. It's only down to the driver and the car, and we'll see what Carlos Sainz can do. Also, I would just like to point out, guys, it's quite nice to see 1, 2 Red Bull, 3, 4 McLaren, 5, 6 Mercedes, 7, 8 Ferrari, 9, 10 Aston Martin. Of course, it isn't the most exciting, but it's quite a nice little aesthetic there on the top left of the screen. Yeah. All right, Lando Norris with going still faster than Oscar Piastri and extended that gap out now to 3 seconds. So the gap is getting bigger and bigger, and we'll just see what happens there between Piastri and Norris. Also, Sergio Perez coming into the pits a little bit earlier than expected. He's only done 25 laps on those hard tyres, and we saw Verstappen do 26 laps on his hard tyres. So if Perez can do Verstappen did it on medium. So Perez is doing 27 on hards and coming into the pits. A little bit interesting. He's now out on the medium tyres. Yeah, we'll see what that strategy is all about. Perez comes out just ahead of Leclerc. Another very well done pit stop from the Red Bull crew, and sneaking Perez out ahead of Charles Leclerc. And now Perez is going to chase down Carlos Sainz. Perez on the mediums, Carlos Sainz on the hards. The pace difference is half a second between those two tyres, so it should be a pretty simple overtake there for Sergio Perez. We'll have to wait and see. Also, George Russell right on the back of Lewis Hamilton, and maybe they're going to do a quick switch around because they are on different strategies. Don't know exactly what's going on there at Mercedes. In fact, I think they've just switched. Yeah, they've just switched them around now. And George Russell's come over the radio and said teamwork. So yeah, apologies for that. Hamilton and Russell have just switched prior to me talking about it. So before, Hamilton was behind and Russell was ahead, and they've just switched around now. Okie dokes. Carlos Sainz coming over the radio asking which compound is better. Is it the mediums? Is it the hards? And I would like to point out Carlos Sainz just driving a car around at a typical, 150 miles per hour and still having a conversation and thinking about which tires are the best. And it's not just Carlos Sainz, it's all of the drivers. All of the drivers are absolutely fantastic. You've got to think about this, like they are maximum focus at driving the car, but then can also think about which tires are the best and what strategy to do. And yeah, it is ridiculous how they can do that. Absolutely fantastic to see. All right, Lando Norris still holds his fastest lap of the race. So Max Verstappen not having any sort of intentions to go quicker than Lando Norris. Although Max Verstappen's previous lap was a personal best, so maybe he will try and go for the fastest lap. We'll have to wait and see. Also, Fernando Alonso did overtake Valtteri Bottas